So word has gotten out that Nintendo was doing something really unusual with the Switch 2, and that is not sending early review units of the console to major press sites and outlets until right at launch, which is crazy, kind of unheard of for a console that they're very confident in that has been pre-ordering well. But journalists are saying today that they've been told they're not getting this system, and therefore they won't be able to have reviews of the system or its games till after you pick up your system. So we're going to break down exactly what's going on and why I feel Nintendo's reason is kind of not true. So good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. Nintendo straight up told these journalists it's because there's a big day one patch. Now, maybe there is a big day one patch, but I don't feel like that's what's going on here. This was initially reported by the Game Business. They posted this big article, this big kind of expose saying they've talked to a bunch of different journalists, top tier journalists, and they've all been told that they're not getting the systems early. Now, this is extra infuriating for these people because A, I'm sure they want to play the Switch 2 right away, but B, Summer Game Fest is going on in LA. Jeff Keighley's Kingdom of Games is happening right when the Switch 2 launches. So, like they said, it's really frustrating, said one editor. We will need to cover Switch 2 while also working across Summer Game Fest. How are we supposed to do that? So not getting their machine until launch day is going to be very crazy. Now, typically, this happens with games where the publisher is not sure how it's going to review, right? They're like, ooh, we don't know if this is going to get 8s or 6s, so we just let the public have the first dibs and let the reviews come out later. We don't want day one sales to be impacted. But that's not always the case. Some publishers just don't like to really mess with that sort of thing. There was a while where Bethesda was not sending its games early to people, and Bethesda is very confident in their titles and usually puts forth some pretty great games. Now, I want to say, I don't think this is because Nintendo thinks there's a problem with Switch 2. I don't think that's the case at all. But I don't also buy that it's the day one major patch. I think Nintendo is so confident that they feel they don't need this out there, and they'd rather not have any more leaks, they'd rather not have any more issues, they'd rather not monitor any of that stuff. And it seems like Nate Drake kind of agrees with me. DirectFeed Games / Nate Drake, a very famous and popular Nintendo leaker, says, "Don't know why people are celebrating this. It's not a good precedent to see set by a company, nor do I believe the firmware reasoning. This is a net negative for launch day game releases that want to generate excitement hype ahead of launch with coverage, reviews, and consumers." And here is where I come in and tell you, yeah, that's sort of the big takeaway. People are going to buy the Switch 2. People are going to buy Mario Kart World. Supposedly, journalists are being invited to a specific Mario Kart World preview where they'll be able to give more detailed hands-on with the game, but they won't have it at their home and they won't have the Switch 2 unit. But it's these third-party games and these other titles that seem to be bearing the brunt of Nintendo's decision. All right, multiple third parties were talked to by the Game Business, and they said that it's pretty frustrating because they feel like they have great offerings outside of Mario Kart. We're talking games like Cyberpunk, Split Fiction, Civilization, Street Fighter 6, and more. And it's a bit difficult when you don't have reviews of these games out there to help popularize them, to help promote them, and help let people know like this is a really good port, or it runs really great on Switch 2, or it feels really great, or the mouse controls are great on Civ 7, whatever would be said. These games, A, are not getting that early hype to become good sellers, and B, they're going to be completely eaten up by these writers and reviewers needing to cover the Nintendo stuff first because they know that's what's going to get the most clicks. So one PR boss told Game Business, "The lack of independent critical validation is going to make it very hard for us. Maybe we would have been better off waiting a few weeks." And I think you've kind of already seen a bit of that mentality where, yes, Nintendo made direct deals with some companies that wanted their games right out at day one, but it does feel like a lot of third parties are kind of pausing around the launch window because maybe they sense Nintendo was being weird about it. One, there was the case of Nintendo not letting companies announce their Switch 2 games. Two, there was the case of Nintendo not even really revealing things themselves till so late in the ball game right before launch. And three, letting Nintendo kind of do the Mario Kart thing at launch and then have your game come out a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the road. You're still hitting a good window. You're still coming out before the big Black Friday spending and holiday spending rush. And you don't have to deal with this initial launch period where Nintendo is being, seems difficult, honestly. Again, I don't think this is a case of Nintendo like worrying, struggling, being fearful. I think this is a case of Nintendo being like, we got the goods, we don't need you. And let me just say, as someone that has reviewed games and covered games early for about 15 years now, That's not a good precedent. Nate Drake is right. We don't want these companies to believe that they don't need or don't feel the obligation to provide review copies, to provide access, so that you are always walking in blind. Because remember, that's sort of the end game here is they don't have to give you review copies. Nobody has to provide any copies. They could require you to go buy the game. They could require you to review it after launch. And all that does is provide more murky waters and more confusion for consumers, which is never a good thing. Take Mario Kart World even, for example. You won't really know exactly how expansive the open world is, exactly how fun all those P-switches are, exactly how time-consuming all those challenges are, if there's anything great to unlock at the end of it, or any progression whatsoever, if these reviewers are not getting access to the game before launch. You're probably buying Mario Kart World anyways, and that's what Nintendo is counting on, but it's not a good look for future titles. Mario Kart kind of becomes an anomaly because it's their best seller, but, you know, we'd like to know about DK Bonanza before DK Bonanza comes out. We'd like to know about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment and see what kind of upgrades were made and see what kind of tweaks were made if that game is really worth spending for. And I'll tell you straight up, Nintendo stopped sending review codes after Super Mario Odyssey early, and they give it to you day of, even when I did work with Nintendo. And I thought that was a huge missed opportunity because it's like, dude, your game's already out there, and now you're expecting us to start coverage? It's not really what people want to see. It doesn't really help the reviewer or the YouTuber or the writer, and it definitely doesn't help the people looking to buy the game. So a very bizarre decision. It's not like it's never been done before, but for a console, like, I got my Switch 1 from Nintendo a week before, okay? And they had those things out there probably to people even before me. They let you get onto the eShop. They let you download snipper clips. They let you try Zelda for many hours. They really wanted to sell you on the concept of the Switch. And I think at the end of the day, maybe there is some day one patch, but in reality, they don't feel like they need to sell this concept. They know they got the games, they know they got the third-party support, and at the end of the day, this system is already sold, right? They've already sold out pre-orders. Who cares if there's reviews from Nintendo's perspective? But it's a bit bizarre because you're not going to really see stuff until you get the system, or unless somebody gets one early and, you know, tries to find one somewhere and then start posting about it. It'll be very interesting to see how things shape up as we move really close to June 5th, but don't expect to see anything out there until you pick up your system, which some people, you know, think is a good thing because then it's not going to be spoiled, or because then they get it at the same time as these writers and there's no FOMO. At the end of the day, though, it is Nintendo kind of exerting their control in a way that maybe they shouldn't be. Just provide the review units. You know the system's going to review well anyways. What else is there to leak? It's not like Nintendo's hiding the big secret magical game underneath the hood of the Switch 2. Let people check out if the new kickstand really is that good at recline. Let people check out if Game Chat is really a great service. I feel like Nintendo feels like anything that could happen would only be negative, so why bother? But still, we owe it, they owe it, everyone kind of owes it, to allow the product to be covered, to be reviewed. It shouldn't be a mystery before you spend your money. And that's where my opinion lies. But let me know yours in the comments down below. Does it make you feel a type of way that Nintendo is not sending out review units as they did with Switch 1 and as many companies have, especially with a brand new console? They usually like to get it too early. Nintendo is saying, nope, we got a day one patch. Can't have it. But is that the real reason? Let me know your take. And until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.